Packers fans be like, oh, that number one spot's still open? Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and today what we're going to be doing is breaking down Week 15 in the NFL, which had some games. Definitely had some games as the playoff picture is really starting to get fine-tuned here. We pretty much know all of the players, and it's just a matter of what seeding they're going to be sitting at come January. But let's jump right into it with, wow. What a phenomenal Thursday night game in two evenly matched teams. The Jets obviously having one of the greatest seasons since Super Bowl III. And the Ravens, you know, another pretty good team. I've heard some good things about them. Met on the battlefield in Baltimore. And wow, did this live up to expectations? The Ravens won 42-21, and this went just about as everybody expected. The Ravens are on a 10-game winning streak. They are clearly the best team in the NFL. They're the most balanced team. They have two divisional rivals to take down to end the season, the Browns and then the Steelers, who they should be able to make short work of. And yeah, this team is going to be very, very difficult to stop come January. And the Jets, oh God, you know, I feel like they were just a small child that was in one of those inflatable tubes that, you know, it's just like, oh man, this is my first time in the big pool. I'm going to go to the deep end. And they waddle on out there. And yet there's a 350-pound man who's on the diving board who's trying to show off for his wife. And he's like, look, honey, look at the size of the wave I can make. And he just jumps in and he doesn't see Timmy. And Timmy sinks straight to the bottom, and they never hear from Timmy again. That's basically what Thursday night was. Then you had the Bears and the Packers meeting for the 200th time. We obviously did a full video breaking this down on Sunday, but here's the too long didn't watch version of it. Yeah, Packers were up 21-3 in the fourth quarter, had an opportunity to make this a blowout. We didn't because, you know, why would we when we could just raise the blood pressure of everybody watching? And so because of that, the Bears tiptoed on back and came within a 8-point difference and a few laterals, and they could have tied this game up. But thankfully they didn't. So the Packers remain perfect within the division, and I still have a heart attack every time I watch them play. But the Bears are officially out of the playoffs. So at least that's something we could celebrate. Then you had the Patriots taking on the Bengals, beating them 34-13. This first half was a real close matchup. Julian Edelman obviously sustaining an injury. The offense of the Patriots is just bad, but thankfully, the offense of the Bengals is far worse. Now, with the Patriots, again, we can't count them out because they could turn around and win everything, literally, you know, in the blink of an eye. Just ask the Falcons or the Rams. Or, you know, any of the times that they've won a million Super Bowls. But the Bengals here, yeah, I mean, it's funny because they're far and away the worst team in the NFL, and yet I would still rather be a Bengals fan than a Browns fan at this point. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Then you had the Seahawks taking on the Panthers, winning 30-24, and there was almost a comeback in Carolina as Christian McCaffrey literally, he's just like, guys, if anybody on this team wants to do something besides me, I'd greatly appreciate it. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey keeping all your fantasy teams alive is literally just a monster. And, and Kyle Allen's just like, yeah, I'm not going to be helping you at all in this endeavor of winning the game. But the bigger story here is that the Seahawks have a ton of injuries that they are having to try and surmount. They have an easy game against the Cardinals, but it's a divisional game, so you never know. And then they have the final meeting against the 49ers, which will most likely decide who the number one seed is. But the Seahawks are sitting on top of the number one seed right now. Can they hold on to it with their broken fingers? Stay tuned. Then you had the Texans taking care of business against the Titans, 24-21. The Titans, they needed to win this game, not just to obviously have a shot at the division and also or the wild card, but now they're at a point where they need to win out because they just need to prove that they can beat the Texans. The Titans obviously went on a nice winning streak there, but unfortunately that ended with Deshaun Watson, and this was a nice bounce back from the Texans, who got awkwardly surprised last week by the Broncos. And so, yeah, the Texans are in control of their own fate for their division still. Again, a lot of inconsistencies for that team, but, they went out. They're good to go. Then you had the Dolphins losing to the Giants 20-36. Eli Manning got his standing ovation, which was nice. That was a nice moment, right? I mean, everything else about the organization's a pure dumpster fire right now. And, while, everyone was, cheering, and it's yeah, the Dolphins are cheering. But it's not because of Eli Manning. It's because they're yes, the tank lives. Then you had the Eagles and the Redskins. The NFC East should just be set on fire. The fact that a playoff team needs to come from this division is a travesty and a mocking of God. That's your breakdown of this game. Then you had the Broncos walking into the freight train that was the Kansas City Chiefs, losing 23-3. The Chiefs absolutely dominated on both sides of the ball. They don't have no running game, but they don't need it with Patrick Mahomes. He could play in a blizzard. He could play when it's sunny out. He could play in a dome. It really doesn't matter. And the Broncos and Drew Lock, well, yeah, it didn't work out this week. So, you did well and you beat the Texans. That was really good. But this one, it wasn't. Then you had the Buccaneers taking on the Lions 38-17. Wow, what a game this was. Yeah. Jameis Winston threw 4 touchdowns, but also threw an interception, because of course he did, leads the league in interceptions. I mean, Buccaneers, when are we just gonna cut our losses? I would think it's gonna be end of this season, but Jameis Winston's look, I'm still relevant. He'll throw for over 400 yards. He'll throw 4 touchdowns. The guy can throw 12 touchdowns next week, and Tampa Bay's gonna be no, we're not going to take it, because he's going to throw 6 interceptions with those touchdowns. So, yeah. Both these teams aren't even sniffing the playoffs. So, kind of made this game a little irrelevant. But the question is, what the hell do the Lions do now? That you were saying that Matt Patricia is going to stay on for next season, which it makes sense. You got to give him some more time. But with Matthew Stafford going on IR, Lions need some help, because they have the talent. They're not capitalizing on it. Something's not gelling. Then you had the Cardinals beating the Browns 38-24. Yeah, Kenyon Drake with 4 rushing touchdowns is just disgusting. And the Browns saying, come and get me. And at this point, they're shouting it to every NFL team. The Bengals show up, come and get me. The Dolphins show up, come and get me. The random passerby walks by, come and get me. Please adopt me. Get me off this team. Because the Browns, they're just a terrible organization at this point. They have a whole bunch of talent on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, but making Freddie Kitchens your head coach was one of the biggest mistakes they possibly could do. This is obviously an undisciplined team. Obviously, you have trainers who are botching the injury of Odell Beckham Jr. And yeah, I don't even know where you go, but I know what you start with, and that's getting rid of Freddie Kitchens. Then you had the Jaguars beating the Raiders in the final game in the black hole, winning 20-16 as Minshew Mania decided to make a comeback for a little bit. And the Raiders have now lost 4 straight, and this was quite the finale. And you had fans who were ripping up seats and ripping off cup holders and throwing them into the field because, class. Yep, that's a whole lot of class that's going on. But, listen, I'm sure things will be just fine in Vegas and things will go well. They won't. Then you had the Vikings getting 7 turnovers against the Chargers, winning 39-10. Yeah, Gordon got benched because he fumbled twice. Phillip Rivers looked terrible. And yeah, the Vikings defense absolutely dominated this team. And I really hope that this defense doesn't show up next week against the Packers, but Dalvin Cook getting injured could be a big blow to their NFC North hopes. Then you had the Rams losing to the Cowboys 44-21. Zeke went off. What is going on in the NFL? What's going on with the Cowboys? Again, I put them in that NFC East dumpster fire that they shouldn't be making the playoffs either because they suck. And then they pull off this win against the Rams after the Rams are like, look, guys, we're big and we're strong. We can beat the Seahawks. Nope. No consistency. I can't even predict it. But you know what? it may have saved Jason Garrett's job. And if it did, worth it. Then you had the 49ers losing 22-29 in a heartbreaker against the Julio Jones-led Falcons, who in the last 2 seconds scored the game-winning touchdown after being challenged, or the booth reviewed it and saw that it was a score. And, 49ers fans, obviously the big thing that you have over the Seahawks right now is you're healthy, but you've lost a few games as of late. And now it's just a matter of, let's hope that's a one-off, because you have 2 pretty tough games coming up. The Rams, I don't think, will be a cakewalk, and then you have the Seahawks, so you might be sitting at that number 5 seed. Then you had the Bills beating the Steelers in a defensive game in which the Bills defense continuously stepped up. They got 4 interceptions, and now they made the playoffs. The Steelers' playoff hopes really weren't dashed too much, considering you had the teams that they needed to lose, like the Titans, losing. So the Steelers are in... still, the 6th seed is still in focus for them. But the Bills, one of their big tests is going to be this Saturday. But they made the playoffs, and so congrats, Bills Mafia. Then finally, you had the Saints beating up on the Colts 34-7. Breeze is a pretty good football player. Yeah, he's pretty damn good. Kamara actually had a pretty good night too. And the way I analyzed this, I watched bits and pieces of the game, was that I needed 40 fantasy points. I was down 40 fantasy points. So I needed 41 to win, and I got 42 with Kamara and Breeze. So because of that, thank you, Drew Brees. Thank you. Because of you, I'm in the fantasy football championship. So because of that, you get the win of the week. But let me know what you thought about Week 15 down in the comments below, and the lack of consistency from good teams. Oh, these playoffs are going to be something. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy on all social media. See down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out and thank you to all the Patreon members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.